She thought she had everything under control. Every lie perfectly crafted. Every secret carefully hidden. But as she packed her suitcase that night, heart pounding, hands shaking, she had no idea her husband was watching. Ethan stood in the shadows of their bedroom doorway, eyes locked on Olivia as she shoved clothes into a duffel bag. He had suspected something for weeks, but this was proof. She wasn't just cheating. She was leaving. His voice cut through the silence like a knife. Going somewhere. Olivia froze. The color drained from her face. She turned slowly, lips parting, but no words came out. Ethan stepped forward, holding up his phone. The screen glowed with damning messages, texts she thought she had deleted. Messages from him, her lover, her escape plan. But she had made one fatal mistake, and karma was about to hit harder than she ever imagined. Ethan never thought of himself as the kind of man who would end up in a situation like this. Married for 7 years, he and Olivia had built what most people would call a perfect life. A beautiful home in the suburbs, dinner dates every Friday, and laughter that filled their house on lazy Sunday mornings. To the outside world, they were the picture of happiness. And for a long time, Ethan believed it too. He met Olivia in college. She was the kind of woman who could walk into a room and make heads turn without even trying. She had an effortless charm, a laugh that made people want to be around her. Ethan, on the other hand, was steady, reliable. He wasn't the most exciting guy in the room, but he was the one you could count on. And Olivia? She had once told him that was exactly what she loved about him. They got married young, built their dreams together, and for years, everything felt right. Sure, they had their ups and downs like any couple, but Ethan had never once doubted Olivia's love. But looking back now, he realized the red flags had been there all along. It started small, a shift so subtle he almost didn't notice. Olivia had always been affectionate, but lately, she seemed distant. The little things, the soft touches on his arm when they passed each other in the kitchen, the random, "I love you" texts in the middle of the day, had stopped. At first, Ethan brushed it off. People got busy. Work stress, life responsibilities, it was normal. But then came the late nights. She started coming home later than usual, always with an excuse. "Ugh, work was insane today. I'm exhausted." Or, "I grabbed drinks with some co-workers. Just needed a little break." Ethan never questioned her. Why would he? Olivia had never given him a reason to doubt her before. But then came the locked phone. She had never been secretive about her phone before. If it buzzed while she was cooking, she'd ask him to check it. If she left it on the counter, she wouldn't care if he picked it up. But now it was always face down, always locked. And when he jokingly reached for it one day, she yanked it away like he had just tried to steal something precious. "Ugh, don't be nosy," she had laughed, but there was something forced about it. Ethan didn't say anything then, but something in his gut twisted. Then there was her mood. Some days she was overly sweet, almost guilty. Other days, she was irritable, snapping at him over the smallest things. One night, he reached for her in bed, wanting to hold her the way he always had. But she stiffened. "Not tonight, I'm just really tired," she murmured, rolling away. That was the moment Ethan knew. He didn't have proof. Not yet. But deep down, he felt it, the cold, undeniable truth creeping into the edges of his mind. Something was wrong. And soon, he would find out just how deep the betrayal went. Ethan tried to ignore the nagging feeling in his gut, but the more he paid attention, the harder it was to shake. Something had changed. Olivia had changed. And the more he observed, the more the pieces started to fall into place. It was the little things at first. The way she suddenly seemed glued to her phone, fingers tapping away with a small, secretive smile. The way she tilted the screen away from him whenever he walked by. One night, as they sat on the couch watching TV, her phone buzzed. Ethan glanced over out of habit, expecting it to be a work email or a message from a friend. But the way Olivia reacted made his stomach tighten. She grabbed the phone quickly, turning her body away from him as she opened the message. A second later, she let out a soft, breathy laugh, one he hadn't heard in months. A laugh filled with excitement. Ethan forced a smile. "What's funny?" Olivia's head snapped up, eyes wide for a split second before she masked it with a casual shrug. "Oh, just a dumb meme from Sarah." She turned the phone screen off and set it face down, on the couch. Nothing interesting. Nothing interesting. But Ethan wasn't convinced. Later that night, long after Olivia had fallen asleep, he lay awake staring at the ceiling. That moment played over and over in his head. The way she had smiled at her phone. The way she had turned away from him. She used to smile like that when she got texts from him. But never like that anymore. The late nights begin. The excuses started coming more frequently. Don't wait up, babe. I have a late meeting. Gonna grab drinks with some co-workers after work. Ugh, the gym was packed tonight. Took me forever to finish my workout. At first, Ethan wanted to believe her. He needed to believe her. But then came the night that shattered his illusion. It was a Thursday. Olivia had texted him in the afternoon, saying she'd be working late. Nothing unusual. But around 10 p.m., as he sat alone at the kitchen table, absent-mindedly scrolling through social media, something caught his attention. A friend of Olivia's, Emily, had posted a story on Instagram. A short clip of a crowded bar, people laughing, drinks clinking. But it wasn't the background noise that made Ethan's blood run cold. It was Olivia. She was in the frame for just a second, laughing, leaning in close to a man Ethan didn't recognize. A man who had his hand on the small of her back, touching her in a way no co-worker ever should. His heart slammed against his ribs. This wasn't a meeting. This wasn't work. His hands shook as he replayed the clip, pausing on Olivia's face. She looked happy, carefree, like the weight she carried around him didn't exist when she was with this man. He wanted to call her, to demand answers. But he knew if he did, she'd have an excuse ready. She always did. Instead, he waited. The lies start to unravel. At midnight, Olivia walked through the front door, dropping her purse onto the counter. Ethan forced himself to stay calm. How was work? She sighed dramatically, kicking off her heels. Exhausting. I swear if I have to sit through one more boring budget meeting, I'll lose my mind. She was good. Smooth. But Ethan had seen the truth. Oh yeah. He leaned back against the counter, studying her. Who was there? Olivia barely hesitated. Just the usual team. Amanda, Greg, Sarah, she trailed off, stretching her arms over her head. Why? He almost admired how effortlessly the lie rolled off her tongue. Almost. No reason, he said, forcing a smile. Just curious. She smiled back, but there was something in her eyes, something calculating. And that's when he knew. She was cheating. Now he just had to catch her. Ethan couldn't keep living in the dark. He needed proof, undeniable, inescapable proof. And deep down, he knew Olivia would never hand it to him. If he wanted the truth, he had to find it himself. So he started watching. Not in an obvious way. He didn't want to spook her. But he paid attention to every little detail, the way she clutched her phone like it held all her secrets, the way she always found an excuse to step outside when she took certain calls, the way her texts never lit up on her lock screen anymore. Then, one night, he got his chance. Olivia had left her phone on the bathroom counter while she showered. The screen was locked, of course, but Ethan had spent years watching her type in her passcode absent-mindedly. His hands were clammy as he punched in the numbers. It unlocked. His stomach twisted as he opened her messages. A lump formed in his throat as he scrolled past normal conversations with friends, co-workers, until he saw his name. Daniel. His pulse thundered in his ears as he tapped the thread. Daniel, can't wait to see you tomorrow, babe. Counting the hours. Olivia, me too. I hate sneaking around, but soon we won't have to. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. His eyes blurred, but he forced himself to keep reading. There were pictures, selfies of Olivia in a dimly lit hotel room, wearing the silky red dress he had bought her last Christmas. The same dress she had told him she donated because she never wore it. There were plans, messages detailing where they'd meet, what time, how they had to be careful. And then there was the final blow. Olivia, I told Ethan I'm working late. Should give us a few extra hours, winky face. The world tilted. Ethan felt like he was drowning, his body numb, his mind refusing to accept what was right in front of him. She had been lying to his face. Over and over again. He thought back to every excuse, every time she had pulled away from him, every cold glance, every fake smile. It had all been a lie. The water in the shower shut off. Ethan barely had time to put the phone back before Olivia stepped out, her skin damp, a towel wrapped around her body. She smiled at him, completely unaware that her world was about to shatter. He gripped the edge of the sink to keep himself steady. His voice came out hoarse. How was your day? Olivia sighed. Exhausting. I was drowning in paperwork. You know how it is. He swallowed the bitter taste in his mouth. She's still lying. Even now. He nodded slowly, studying her face, memorizing the features of the woman he had loved, the woman who had betrayed him. He wasn't going to confront her yet. Not now, because Olivia had no idea that her carefully built world was about to crumble. And Ethan? He was going to make sure she felt every bit of the betrayal she had inflicted on him. Ethan had never felt rage like this before. It wasn't the kind that exploded in an instant. It was slow, burning, calculated. A storm building just beneath the surface. He could have confronted Olivia the moment he found the messages. Could have screamed, thrown things, demanded answers. But that wasn't enough. She had been careful, crafting her lies so perfectly, making him doubt his own instincts. She had thought she was untouchable. Ethan wanted to watch her fall apart. So he waited. The next day, he acted normal. Kissed her goodbye in the morning. Told her to have a great day at work. Pretended he wasn't about to expose her for the liar she was. But as soon as she left, he followed. The betrayal unfolds. Ethan parked a few spots away from Olivia's car, outside the hotel. His hands gripped the steering wheel, so tightly his knuckles turned white. His heart pounded in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. He had already called the hotel, posing as Daniel, asking for a key to the room. And surprisingly, the staff handed it over without question. Now, standing outside room 214, he took a slow, deep breath. Then, without knocking, he shoved the door open. The sight hit him like a punch to the gut. Olivia was on the bed, tangled up in sheets, her bare skin exposed. And next to her, still half undressed, was Daniel. The room froze. Olivia's eyes went wide, her face draining of color. Ethan. Daniel scrambled to sit up, grabbing for his clothes, looking more like a deer caught in headlights than the man Ethan had seen touching his wife. Ethan stepped inside, his voice eerily calm. "Don't stop on my account. Looks like you were having a great time." Olivia shot out of bed, pulling the sheet around her. I can explain." Ethan let out a cold, humorless laugh. "Explain? Really? Because from where I'm standing, it looks pretty clear." She was shaking. "It's not what you think." "Oh, it's exactly what I think," he cut in, his voice sharp. "You've been lying to me for months, sneaking around, making me feel crazy for suspecting anything. And for what? Him." He gestured toward Daniel, who flinched. Daniel finally found his voice. "Look, man, I didn't know she was married." Ethan turned to him, his gaze burning. "Shut the hell up." Daniel shut his mouth. Ethan turned back to Olivia, his breath shaking. "How long?" Olivia swallowed hard. "Ethan." "How long?" His voice was dangerously low. She hesitated, then whispered, 6 months. 6 months. 6 months of lies. 6 months of her coming home to him after being with this man. 6 months of telling Ethan she was tired, distant, stressed, when in reality, she was giving herself to someone else. His chest ached. Not just from anger, but from the heartbreak crushing down on him. "I loved you," he said quietly, his voice thick. "I gave you everything. And this is what you do." Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. "I didn't mean to hurt you." Ethan clenched his jaw, shaking his head. "You didn't mean to? You planned this, Olivia. You chose this." She stepped forward, desperation in her eyes. "Ethan, please, we can fix this." He let out another bitter laugh. "Fix this? You think we can fix this?" He gestured around the room. "You're standing in a hotel, naked with another man. What exactly is there to fix?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I was going to tell you. You were going to tell me." He scoffed. "No, you weren't. You were going to keep lying until you got caught. And guess what? You did." She reached for him, but he stepped back. "Ethan, please, I made a mistake." A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is saying something you don't mean in a fight. His voice broke slightly. This was a choice. Over and over again. Olivia sobbed, but Ethan didn't care anymore. He turned toward the door. "Ethan, please don't leave." He stopped, glancing back at her one last time. "Oh, I'm not leaving." He pulled a set of papers from his jacket and tossed them onto the bed. Olivia's face crumpled when she saw them. Divorce papers. Her knees buckled. "Ethan." He held up a hand. "I deserve better than this. Better than you." And with that, he walked out the door without looking back. Ethan didn't just walk away. He made sure Olivia would regret this for the rest of her life. He wasn't the kind of man who sought revenge. At least, he never thought he was. But betrayal changes people. It burns away the softness, leaving something colder, sharper. And Olivia, she had earned every bit of what was coming to her. The divorce papers weren't just a threat. They were real. Already signed. Ethan had spent the past few weeks preparing them, just in case his suspicions were right. But the real sting wasn't in the divorce itself, it was in how Olivia would be left when it was over. Ethan had been the sole breadwinner for most of their marriage. Olivia had a job, sure, but nothing that could maintain the life she was used to. Their house? His name was the only one on the deed. The car she drove? He had bought it for her. And now, she was about to lose it all. He made sure the divorce would leave her with nothing, no house, no car, no security. Just regret. And that wasn't even the worst part. Ethan had one final move to make before he closed this chapter for good. He waited until the weekend when Olivia was at brunch with her friends, the same friends who had always praised their marriage, the ones who believed Olivia and Ethan were relationship goals. And then he struck. He sent the screenshots. Every message between Olivia and Daniel. The hotel confirmations. The intimate photos Olivia had sent another man while lying next to her husband. He sent them to her family, her friends, their mutual acquaintances. The fallout was immediate. Her phone blew up. Texts, missed calls, panic. Within an hour, Olivia was at the house, banging on the door. Ethan took his time answering. When he did, he found her standing there, mascara running, her hands trembling. "What did you do?" she choked out. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "I made sure everyone knows exactly who you are." Her breathing was uneven. "Ethan, you ruined me." He tilted his head. "No, Olivia. You ruined you." She clutched his arm. "Please don't do this. We can talk, we can fix this." He pulled away, shaking his head. "You don't get to rewrite the story, Olivia. You don't get to play the victim." She let out a sob. "I love you." Ethan gave her the coldest look he had ever given anyone. "No, you don't. If you did, you wouldn't have done this." She collapsed onto the doorstep, her cries racking her body. But Ethan felt nothing. Not pity, not guilt, just peace. For first time in months, he felt free. And as he shut the door in Olivia's face, he knew she would never forget this moment. Because while Ethan would move on, rebuild, and find love again, Olivia would always have to live with the knowledge that she destroyed the best thing she ever had. And that was the best revenge of all.